Cartoon Obsession. Hello everybody, and happy Halloween. My name is Nathan, and I am the man with a cartoon obsession. Before we get down to business, I quickly wanted to remind you all of the obscure reviews that will be taking place in November. The results of the polls are in. The obscure anime I will be reviewing is After School Dice Club, and the obscure cartoon I will be reviewing is Kenny the Shark. Thank you to everyone who voted, and I hope you enjoy those reviews. Now on to today's topic. In case you couldn't tell from my costume, this video is being uploaded on October 31st, Halloween. I've talked about a spooky episode and a horror-themed series this month, but I figured I'd close the month of October out by talking about not one, but two actual Halloween movies. Prepare yourselves for nostalgia, folks, because today I'm going to be looking at and reviewing Scary Godmother Halloween Spooktacular and Scary Godmother The Revenge of Jimmy. Scary Godmother Halloween Spooktacular is a TV movie that premiered in Europe, Latin America, Australia, and Canada in 2003, and it premiered in the United States the following year. Then its sequel, Scary Godmother The Revenge of Jimmy, premiered in 2005. Cartoon Network used to show these movies several times every year during the month of October, but as times changed, they stopped airing them. The movies were based on the Scary Godmother series of books and comics. I've never read the books or comics, so my first introduction to Scary Godmother was when I first saw it on Cartoon Network back in 2004. That's right, I actually vividly remember watching it when it first premiered on Cartoon Network 16 years ago. Actually, I watched both movies on their initial airings. Because of that, I may be heading into this review with rose-colored glasses on, but to be fair, I never called myself a real critic. Anyway, I was originally only going to tackle the first movie and wait until next year to cover the sequel, but I figured since there's so much overlap between the two movies that I'd basically be making the same video twice, so I just decided to cover both in one. The story of the first movie is that a group of kids, Daryl, Katie, Bert, and Jimmy, send Jimmy's younger cousin Hannah into an old abandoned house that they dubbed the Spook House on Halloween when they meet up to go trick-or-treating. They warn her about monsters and tell her that a flashlight would defeat the monsters, and of course they scare her half to death by faking monster noises and shadows, and they even trap her inside the house. Then, straight out of Cinderella, the Scary Godmother, comes out of nowhere to help Hannah. She takes her to another dimension called the Fright Side to introduce her to her monster friends at her Halloween party and help Hannah get over her fear of monsters. She meets all sorts of monsters, and I'll talk about each of them in a bit more detail later, but naturally she's afraid of all of them when she first meets them. However, she's afraid of Bugaboo, the biggest and scariest monster of the bunch, the most, and she even makes him feel bad for scaring her. He explains that not all monsters are mean. They're big and scary, but that's their job, to scare kids. After hearing that and really getting to know Bugaboo and the other monsters, Hannah isn't afraid of them anymore. In fact, the monsters all help Hannah get back at Jimmy and the other kids for scaring her. I should mention, by the way, the other kids just stay outside the spook house the whole time, so they don't even really get to go trick-or-treating, except for Katie and Daryl, and that exchange leads to what I think is a funny scene.
Breaker, we've lost contact with Katie and Daryl. Please advise, Houston, over.
Bert, nobody puts CBs in SUVs these days.
You just left your baby cousin to the mercy of killer monsters on Halloween night? And you're concerned with the additions and upgrades in my cardboard SUV?
Anyway, later on, they finally decide to go in the house and get Hannah. This is where they run into all of the monsters, and they're all scared shitless for lack of a better term, and Hannah shines her flashlight at them to vanquish them. Of course, the whole thing was staged, but the big kids don't know that. That leads into the second movie, where this time, most of the story takes place before Halloween. It involves the kids planning for Halloween, and they try to get Jimmy to join them, who, by the way, went through reverse puberty since the first movie.
I'm Jimmy. I'm the devil. Happy Halloween.
I figure monsters are dumber than you, and since you fell for it...
Jimmy, however, was emotionally scarred by being scared the previous Halloween. He went crazy, got rid of just about all of his stuff so monsters wouldn't have a place to hide, and he wants to boycott Halloween. Naturally, the others want no part of this, so they just make their Halloween plans without Jimmy. However, every time they want to do something, whether it be picking pumpkins, buying costumes, or having a party at the spook house, Jimmy sabotages their plans. Of course, they don't figure out that it's Jimmy, but whenever he tries to ruin Halloween in their world, the entire Fright Side gets turned upside down. It's okay though, because Hannah always finds a way to make do with the situation that's been presented to them. Then Hannah takes the others to the Fright Side to Scary Godmother's annual Halloween party, where there's going to be a costume contest. Jimmy follows them and tries to steal the grand prize, however his plan gets foiled and he ends up running into Bugaboo and scaring him, which leads to Jimmy winning the costume contest and regaining his Halloween spirit. There are other smaller story elements that I'll probably touch on in a little bit, but those are the main points of both movies. Now I said I would talk about all the characters, so let's get into that. First I'll talk about the kids. Daryl, Bert, and Katie are honestly just there. None of them really have any defining character traits. Basically, Daryl is an average, slightly dense boy, Bert is a sports fan, I guess, and Katie is... well, I actually don't know. She's just the girl of the group, I guess. Like I showed before, Katie and Daryl were shown to have a thing for each other, but it was never mentioned again outside of that one scene. Plus, the three of them always take a backseat to the other kids. Jimmy is the self-proclaimed leader of the group. He likes picking on his cousin, bossing the others around, and in the second movie ruining Halloween for everybody just because he's afraid of monsters. I guess he's redeemed at the end of the second movie because he gets his Halloween spirit back, but he never apologizes or even confesses for his actions, and everybody just forgets about it. But at least unlike the other big kids, Jimmy actually has some personality. Maybe not the best personality, but it's something. Then there's Jimmy's cousin, Hannah, who was the main character of both movies. She's the youngest of the group, and as I said earlier, she spends most of the first movie being afraid of monsters until she befriends them. She's shown to be kind-hearted and just innocent altogether. She loves Halloween, which is why she ends up essentially saving it in the second movie. On to the monsters now. There's the titular Scary Godmother. She's a witch who helps Hannah overcome her fear of monsters, but it's not clear if she helps other kids with their fears as well. She also hosts an annual Halloween party, which is the setting for a majority of the first movie. She lives with a ghost cat named Boozle, not much to explain there, a skeleton named Mr. Pettibone, also known as Scully, who's a skeleton that hides in closets and he acts like a butler or assistant to Scary Godmother, and their other roommate, or broommate as Scary Godmother says, is Bugaboo. Bugaboo is the biggest and scariest monster, and he hides under kids' beds. He's shown to be kind, and he also likes pizza with extra cheese and olives, which is also Hannah's favorite type of pizza, another bonding moment between the two. Next, there's the vampire family. King Max and Queen Ruby, which I can't help but think of the Max and Ruby cartoon when I put those names together, and their son Orson. Max tries to act young and hip to fit in with the others, Ruby has really no defining character traits, and Orson is basically an average kid who just so happens to be a vampire. He gets embarrassed by his parents easily like any normal child, and he behaves much like Hannah, which is why they get along so well. The last monster is Harry Wolf, a werewolf who is obsessed with food and comic books. He's very rude and lazy, but he is the source of some great comedic moments.
Well, I'm sure this Jimmy/monster discussion is imperative to the plot. Can we get back to something that is really important, like ordering pizza?
I also enjoy his role as narrator in the second movie. He's still in the movie proper, but he has a few scenes telling the story, and they're solid. It's a nice way to differentiate the two films. The voice acting in the two movies is solid enough. The scripts themselves aren't that great, so the voice actors did the best with what they were given. There are some awkward moments in the dialogue, but the emotion and energy is there for all the characters. The cast is a bit different between the two movies, and that's more noticeable for some characters than others. The only ones with different voices in the second movie that stand out to me are Jimmy, like I mentioned before, and Bert. Other than those two, I couldn't tell you which characters have different voice actors. Sticking with the audio aspect, I personally enjoy the music in these films, specifically the song that plays when Scary Godmother and Hannah travel to the Fright Side. And the song that's played during the dance montages. Those two songs are similar, but I think they offer a fun Halloween vibe to the movies, plus they're just catchy tunes. The rest of the music in the movies are fine, but not nearly as memorable. And now we move from the audio to the visuals. Right off the bat, I have to point out the unique visual style of these movies. The backgrounds are mainly 2D and static, whereas the characters are all 3D. In an interview with the author of the book series, Jill Thompson, she said that she wanted the characters to be 3D because, and I quote, "I'm doing 2D. Nobody else should be doing 2D, just me." It's sort of like a pop-up book, and comparisons have been drawn to movies like The Nightmare Before Christmas. While I see the similarities, I have to say that the animation and character designs for the Scary Godmother movies are far below that of The Nightmare Before Christmas. Of course, that's not a fair comparison given that movie's budget and staff. Still, I can't completely ignore these things. For one thing, I don't understand why the big kids have little dots for eyes, whereas Hannah has full eyes. Maybe it's to differentiate her from the big kids, or maybe it's to symbolize the innocent, bright eyes of a child, or maybe there's just no reason. There are plenty of other animated works that utilize this kind of technique, but I still feel it's worth mentioning. Not to mention, the kids' faces just look a bit off. Not quite ugly, but a little unsettling. The same can be said for the monsters as well. Plus, there are odd design choices for them, such as the abnormally long chests of Scary Godmother and Ruby, or the vampires' necks. Seriously, that looks excruciatingly painful. Do they not have chiropractors on the fright side? I joke, but honestly, the monster designs are more acceptable. After all, they're monsters. They're supposed to look creepy. In some cases, though, I think they look more normal than the kids. Aside from the character designs, the actual animation is very choppy. There are several noticeable animation errors throughout both movies, and several awkward movements as well. It's not all bad though, because I do really like the backgrounds and just the overall pop-up book-like style that I mentioned earlier. It may be a bit of an acquired taste, but I'm a fan of these odd and unique visual styles, which is why I'm also into works like many of the Rankin Bass Christmas specials and all of the other reindeer. Of course, there are bad, unique art styles too, like the Problem Solvers for example, but this one appeals to me personally. Overall, both of these movies are flawed, and really, they're products of their time that don't exactly hold up. That being said, the point of these movies is to get you into the Halloween spirit, and while they're not very good, they're at least fun to watch, and that's why I try to watch them every October. If you can get past all of the flaws that I mentioned, then I'm sure you'll have a good time with these films. Overall, I give both Scary Godmother movies a 60 out of 100. Like I said, I may be looking at these movies through rose-colored glasses, but I still appreciate some of the unique design choices, some of the humor, and just the overall feeling of Halloween fun that the films project. These aren't movies that are meant to be taken all that seriously, and I think that they can be fun when watched around Halloween.
I can see a long tunnel with a bright light. I move towards the light. No, all right. I die. I flail. Then I die.
Thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you have any other cartoons, anime, or other animated works that you want me to talk about in the future, please let me know. After all, it's not my channel, it's our channel. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and feel free to check out my social media pages, audition for an outro, and join the official Cartoon Session Discord, the links for all of which are in the description below. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all next time.
Greetings, my villainous viewers. It is I, Black Hat, and it almost hurts to say it. And thank you for watching Cartoon Obsession.